Hello, and welcome to today's podcast where I have an empowered, magically creative, ever so slightly fucking chaotic, but completely lovable Carla Watkins. Carla, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. That is probably the favourite way anyone has ever introduced me ever. I am going to steal that.
You can steal that. I am not going to do you any credit if I try and introduce you properly. So I'm going to let you explain to all our listeners who you are, and I know that we're going to actually, before we go into this, those of you listening, go and get your little shots of vodka ready, because every time you hear the word multi-pod or multi-podder, you're going to take a little shot. So over to you, Carla.
And then we want some footage of who has got the drunkest during this podcast.
Absolutely.
That's what I'd like to see. So hi, I am Carla Watkins. I am a visual magic maker and a proud multipod. And by multipod, I mean someone who thrives on multiple things, as you'll find out in about 30 seconds' time. So, primarily, I'm a photographer and I specialise in making women feel amazing about themselves. So, I started out in boudoir and still shoot boudoir, but also I now specialise in brand photography, so women in business, showing them as they really are, boosting their confidence and their visibility online. So that is the thing that I do most of and lights me up. I also am a semi-professional mermaid. Was a professional mermaid, then the pandemic happened. So I'm a professional mermaid and I turn people into mermaids, and everyone should be a mermaid for a day. It's the best thing ever. Photos of mermaids. And I also shoot art and fairy tale work, so for exhibitions and what goes on inside my head. It's an interesting world inside my head, seeing it visually. That's fun.
The inner workings of Carla.
And my other businesses are Ink Drops, which is a stationery subscription box which turns 10 this year, which I run with a lovely friend Anastasia, and my lockdown project was starting a chocolate company with family in Malden called Tempered, which has got very exciting. It's gone beyond our wildest dreams. It's exploded a bit, and I have now eaten a lot more chocolate than I thought I would have done by this time in my life. And I also have a podcast which I run with a photographer and writer who's based in Canada. And I think that's everything in the book.
That is an immense amount of different businesses, like the amount of hats that you must put on.
Yeah, there are many hats. There's a lot of juggling. I think it's probably useful at this point to say that I also discovered last year that I have ADHD, and I think that might be a superpower in my case. I think that might be how I juggle all the shit. So
that's interesting. Like you've got the ADHD cape on.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was going to say to you, like, how do you just find the time for the creativity to kind of channel that into everything? And yeah, I mean,
I think my honest answer to that is that I do my best creative work in the middle of the night when no one else is awake asking me stupid questions. Not that all the questions are stupid. But I think, I think there has to be time away from other people in order for me to actually get the creative work that needs doing done for all of those things.
Yeah, and I know, obviously, because we had a little chat beforehand, that you've been single now for
8 years.
8 years. And it's a conscious decision of yours, isn't it, to be single?
Yes. So I had a long relationship from 14 to 22-ish, and then a little break, and then another couple of years relationship. And they were both lovely. There was nothing bad about those, but I discovered after the end of the last one that I am just much happier on my own. Which I have to say was as much of a surprise to me as it was to anybody else. But it was kind of a slow realisation that on my own I am happier and calmer and more creative, more fulfilled. I've got more time for the things that make me happiest. I can see people, I can't see people in a relationship, but again, you spend time with someone when you're with them and you love them. And it wasn't initially, it was a, I quite like this, I'll see how it goes for the first couple of years. And then I started celebrating my singleversary, which hilariously is on Valentine's Day. That was when my last relationship ended. I celebrated 8 years this year, and I can't honestly see that changing. I plan to retire with a close friend of mine who's similar. So we're going to look after each other when we get, when we do daft stuff like fall over in the bathroom, we will deal with that with each other. But up until then, I'm going to be gloriously single and creative is my plan.
I think that's a really important thing, because there's so many people, society expects that we should live this, husband and wife or just in a relationship. And when you say that you're single and that you're happily single, people kind of look at you as if they think you're batshit crazy. But I know that, like, for similarly, I took a year out of dating men last year. And it was so good because it was like I cleared all that shit out of my womb space, my creative energy. They weren't taking up my head space. And I could then suddenly get my creative juices were flowing for like launching my business. And I think that's a really important thing to kind of get out there to other women that, and so many women stay in relationships they're not happy in and it's draining them. Obviously we can go off on a tangent on that and I probably won't. Because we're not here all day for that. But go on,
I think for me, the really key thing is that I can be the most myself I can be. There is no compromise. And that, I think, from a creative and business and throwing things out into the world point of view is really valuable. It doesn't make any other way of being any less valid. But for me, being able to be wholly and completely myself in a really deep way is I think, really key to all the different things that I do.
Yeah. So you do some business mentoring, don't you? And what's your? I'll let you say it because you're going to say it way better than I can say it. What is your tagline for that?
For colourful, magical weirdos like me.
Yay!
Yeah.
She sits here with her blue hair and blue and purple hair. Sorry.
And sparkly hair.
Yes.
And glitter in the daytime. So that is for kind of businesses business owners really, who might be a little bit unsure of the next direction, or most often actually it's people who are multi-pods but don't necessarily know that they are. So they've got all these conflicting things, and the should out there is where you've got to pick a thing. Pick the thing you're best at, or pick the thing you love the most and do that. Mm-hmm. And my approach is, well, actually, how can we blend them? How can we make them fit? What are your busy periods in a year? How can we fit those things together so you can do all of the things? There is maybe a little bit of compromise in that you can do all of the things and you can do them all at once, but you do have to accept they will all grow slower than if you focus on just one. Yeah. But there's no reason that you have to put anything that you love to one side.
And your focus as well, like you really help women not to just live their lives authentically, but 3,000%.
Be 3,000% yourself. Why just be 100% yourself?
And I think that if we tie that back in really quickly just to the relationship thing, if you're not in a relationship that is fulfilling you and lighting you up, then you're not going to be authentically yourself. But you can have a relationship with someone who absolutely likes you,
who brings more of you out. Absolutely,
exactly. And I think that's the really positive thing. That's the kind of relationships we should be having. But they can have a relationship with you in the mentoring world.
Yes.
And you help them to find that drive and that passion and what lights them up.
And I think confidence as well. I think women really suffer from, I don't know if it's a modesty thing that's drilled into us when we're young, but actually seeing, and that's for me where the photography comes in, is that seeing yourself as you are rather than as you think you are. So seeing yourself as the world sees you is really important to me, because my own first experience of that was transformational. And it's just an amazing thing to be able to do that for other people.
Yeah. So when you're doing the photography work, how do you spend time getting to know them, and how do you
There's always cake. Because that's obviously part of any good.
We say today we
have brownies on the table. Yes, I knew this was going to be a good one. There's for the brand photography, there's a really in-depth planning process, and we always meet beforehand as well. And there's a similar planning process, but obviously less business focused for the boudoir and mermaids. And there's a lot of play. I do encourage people to play and to really kind of use their imagination and relax into being themselves, because again, I think there's a lot in adulthood. I mean, I am essentially just an overgrown child. There's a lot of, I think, especially in business, there's a lot of shoulds. There's a lot of, in order to be professional, you must do this, and in order to be taken seriously, you must do this. And actually, I don't subscribe to any of that, because you can be successful you can just be yourself and still be successful.
Absolutely. And before we came obviously on air, Carla didn't know me that well. And so she needed to check in that it was okay to have a few little swears. And absolutely.
Yay!
Because, and this has always been my big thing as well, is that those shoulds of, if I'm going to do a podcast, I need to do this. And I actually, when I teach my courses, I start, and within the first half an hour, I've said to them all, okay, I'm just going to warn you all that I do say shit, fucking, I wouldn't say the other one. And if you don't like it, the door's there. And no one's ever walked out. But what it does is it gives people permission to be real and raw with me, because they see that I'm just real and I'm just this, I'm not this.
And they don't have to put a front on, which exactly. I think is, really, really important.
And that's why I think we've got on so well today. It's we actually did about 3 hours of talking before we even come on live, because we're not really 3 hours, but exaggerating slightly. But it's so nice when you meet people where you can actually be your authentic self.
Yeah.
And I think that's obviously what you drive out in people, and you really can encourage them to do that within their own businesses as well, and obviously within their photographs. And yeah.
I mean, I think for me, it's really important to recognise. It took me a long time. So I've had, I started my first blog, something horrific, like 18 years ago. And I've had businesses of various sorts for about 12 years now. And I would say it's probably only in the last 5 or 6 years that I have really kind of understood and absorbed the fact that there is space for everyone, that actually no one will do whatever you're doing. I mean, there are thousands of photographers out there. There are thousands of stationery boxes out there. There's a lot of chocolate in the market, I can tell you that for sure. I've eaten most of it. But there is no one who will do what you do just like you do. And that sounds really trite, but I think it's something that can really change your mindset when you realise that actually people will book your service for, hopefully you're good at what you do, but actually they will book you for you as much as anything else, because that connection is really important.
I love that. And I think, of all the bits from this podcast, that one sentence is something really important, because there's so much competition still with women, and they want to compete. And, I always say to all my students as well, like, there's room for everyone, because you're all going to bring different aspects to it and different stories. And people are drawn to you exactly for your energy. You magnetise people to you that are going to vibe with you, and they're going to get exactly what they need from you. And they may go on to another photographer, or they may go on to another womb massage therapist or whatever afterwards, because they've got what they needed from you. And then, it's a bit like us in relationships with people, you get what you need, and then you move on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I think that's a really valuable thing to say. So thank you. Now, I know that you are, I love this. When you told me this, I'm like, how do you find time to be writing 3 books simultaneously?
There's 5 in the works, but three I'm currently working on at the moment, yeah.
Which is your favourite one that is really kind of gripping you right now?
So the one that is taking up most of my kind of business brain space is the first one, should be the first one out, which is Visual Magic. So it's about how you can use brand photography to get more visible, get more confident, and transform your own business. But it's not for photographers, it's for pretty much everyone. Well, I mean, photographers could use it, but it's for everyone but photographers. It's to make it really accessible, and kind of shooting your own, how to work with people, how to kind of work with your photos and your website designer and it's fitting that in. And that's making me really excited, because I think there is always a space for doing your own, particularly as you're evolving at the beginning. But the one that's really got my heart at the moment is singlehood. So talking about my experiences in singlehood, I've got some people to interview, people like you who have had a gap, because it doesn't have to be the fact that I think it will be permanent for me doesn't mean it has to be, but I would really like it to not be seen as a in-between state, that it is just another, you can be coupled or you can be single. And those two things are, because no one ever says to someone in a couple, oh, when are you guys going to break up so you can be single again?
Well, to be fair, I actually imagine that most of my family would say that to me in most of my relationships.
Amazing. Okay.
Yes,
you might be the exception to the rule.
When this one's going to be over and they can play the Queen song, another one bites the dust.
Amazing.
Thank you. Yes, sorry, carry on.
No, you're right. But on the whole, it is definitely seen. I mean, even now, even after 8 years of it, I've had some decent publicity around it as well. And I still get people saying, oh, don't worry, your prince will come. And I'm not looking for a bloody prince. He's fine. He can fuck off when he does come. And I mean, I'm not close to the idea of being with someone. I just, at the moment, that's not something I'm looking for. So the book, that book has got my heart at the moment, because there's a lot. And actually, the more I talk about it, the more people are opening up about, I mean, I've had a couple of people say, oh, I am happily settled now, but you know what? Those few years that I was single living in such and such a place, those were some of the best of my life. And I think it's just something I'd really like to put out into the world and get more people to know about as a choice.
And I think it's taken away that shame that some people feel in being single.
Yeah. Which I have been through in my time, just for, in the interests of, this was not an overnight, I broke up and I was like, hell yeah, I'm going to do this. There was definitely a process of adjusting. But yeah, there shouldn't be shame. Why should there be shame?
I mean, if you think about, most people that know me very well know that I love Bridget Jones. And, she was that singleton who was really uncomfortable in all those couple situations. And I think it really highlighted that, society in the world just expect that in order for you to be happy, you've got to be in a couple. And so I think it's amazing that you're doing something like this. And I know that there's certain people in my life I will be buying the book and giving it to them for. Oh, I love the fact that I just got to do a sneaky little look at somebody. And
I enjoyed that very much.
I did have another question in my head, then it's obviously gone because I got into my mischievous brain.
Well, you asked about the books. So the third one is multi-poddery. So again, just bringing that concept, because again, I feel like I didn't set out to give people permission, but the thing that I was missing when I started my business journey was permission to do it my way. And the multi-poddery thing again is introduced because I've lost count now of the number of people just in my day-to-day life who've said, oh, and I love this and I'm doing this thing in my, but I also want to do this other thing in my job, and not necessarily just in business, but and I've gone, well, you could you come across this concept where you can be. So the other word for it, the words that you guys might have heard, is multi-potentialite, scanner, and Renaissance person or Renaissance man or woman. Multipod is the word. It's not as well used a word, but it's the word I like the most.
Could you say multipod about another 3 times? Because then I think we're up to
Multipod,
about 12. That's about 12 vodkas people are drinking.
That's, for me, again, it's that thing of just opening it up as a choice. It probably isn't for everyone. In fact, it definitely isn't for everyone. But for me, when I discovered it was a concept, it was like everything fell into place. I was like, oh, that's why I do. That's why I thrive. Because I've tried in my time, shutting everything off and focusing on one thing, and I'm miserable. And not especially productive or creative either. It becomes a chore then. Whereas when I'm flitting between lots of different things, all of those things are benefiting much more from me.
Yeah, and I think, because you said obviously with the ADHD, I think it probably really helps actually keep you in balance in life, because it actually fits who you are. You're not trying, obviously this podcast is called, Your Own Drum, and there's 2 angles to it. And one is, Bang Your Own Drum, which we've done where we were celebrating all of the amazing gifts that you bring out to the world, and we're kind of going, this is an amazing woman who, does this and this. But the other one, part of it for me, is beat your own drum, and it's like dancing to the rhythm of your own beat. Yeah. And that, fucking hell, like someone that does that to the nth degree is you. And I love that. It's like you give people permission
to do what works for them.
Yeah, and to own that, because there are no shoulds in life. Really
and there's
isn't.
No guarantees in life either. I think that is the other thing.
Absolutely.
But you just don't know what is coming next. You don't. So you need to make the most of what you've got.
Yeah.
In each day. That sounds so trite when I say it out loud. But it's true. It is true.
And I haven't given you permission to swear. I've just realised I've sworn a lot more than you have.
Oh,
because I really feel like I've dropped into my altar and I'm just like, blah, blah.
You're all good. Yeah, no, I actually do. I normally punctuate with swearing, so I'm not quite sure what's going on there.
You.
But it's all good. You're doing it for me. No. Yeah, no, I think it is. It's that permission to live. Live to your. I like that. Live to your own rhythm. That is something that I think we do. And obviously there are. We have people in our lives. We might have children. We might have partners. We might have other family. Work colleague. I mean, my other half at Jobs, she tends to get up at 5 a.m. and go to bed about 9 p.m. So we literally tag team every day, because I go to bed about 4 a.m. So
Wow.
So the stuff I've been doing, I'll send her a message and be like, I know you'll be up in about an hour. This is the stuff I've done. This is where I need you to take off. It's great. But again, both of us now we're self-employed. We actually met working at Essex Libraries, and that was obviously much more structured. Like we had to be there when the libraries were open. That is usually a requirement of a job, is to be there when the place is open. It's not something I've ever been very good at, but it's a thing you're supposed to do. And I think both of us are much happier on our respective, completely opposite, but our schedules, our rhythms, rather than the kind of average one for the world.
Absolutely. And also the other thing that I know that you've done is you've consciously chose not to have a child, which take my hats off to you and celebrate that, because so many women, they want a child because society expects them, again, to have a child, because you're not fulfilled in life as a woman unless you have a child. And actually, that's bullshit. And so, yes, I do have a child, but, and that's not actually.
But then that's really nice to hear as well. I mean, I know from lots of my friends, actually, that I think sometimes the longing for a child is a really visceral thing, as visceral as my needing to be my own person and work on my own schedule and not be tied to a job and everything was. But I think no one should have a child that they don't want, and I know that I don't want one. And lots of people have said, oh, but I'm sure if you had one you'd probably love it, and I'm sure I would love it, but I don't think that's necessarily I don't know, it didn't feel quite right for me. And also I know I don't want that responsibility. Really, I can barely look after myself some days, so I'm not sure I should inflict that on.
And I'm not being funny, but one of the things that you haven't got to do in life is constantly tell them to put their shoes on and get ready for school. I mean, that saves a lot of breath.
There is an amazing sketch about leaving the house when you are just an adult, and leaving the house when you have children. It's brilliant. Yeah, it takes a long time, but no.
And I'm not knocking anybody. Obviously,
No,
like I say,
not at
I
all.
have a child,
But it's
for
the
me,
expectations. I think it's the expectations of and I'm 36 now, so I am definitely at that age where I've been to a lot of weddings, a lot of hen dos, a lot of baby naming ceremonies and births and christenings and stuff. And people do look at me now and they're like, "Oh, are you gonna?" I'm like, no, I'm not. No, my choice is not to. And don't get me wrong, if I change that choice, I will also own that change of choice. I think that's what I would like for everyone, is to be able to do what's right for them. But I can't see, I've got 29 first cousins. I cannot see me changing my choice. I love kids, but I do not want one every day.
How nice of you could hand them back.
I tend to wind them up on sugar and then hand them back.
Yeah,
but
that's not, yes.
No, don't give me your children to look after, guys. It's not a thing. No, it's and they, they're wonderful, and I'm really enjoying being an auntie, actually. So some of my closest friends have had children over the last sort of 5 years to the last 6 months or so, and it's amazing. It's amazing being part of those children's lives. It's a privilege to be part of their lives. But then I also quite like that. And the parents have actually said, a couple of my friends have said, it's nice that they can see a different way of living to mummy and daddy, because obviously that's different and it's just really fun.
Yeah.
The only downside is that I do have a few friends who are like, could you just stop persuading our 5-year-old that she wants to have multicolour rainbow hair, because it's not really appropriate at primary school. So apart from that, we're all good. But yeah.
I love your multicolour hair.
Thank you. I do too.
And I love the fact that I know the person.
Yes.
By fluke chance.
Who does it?
Your hair as well.
She is a magical unicorn. Actually, we both say she uses Colourful Magical Weirdo, and we made a unicorn together in the summer, and we were Team Colourful Magical Weirdos for charity, and we made a real life unicorn, and that was a pretty highlight of my. See, when you're yourself, I think that's a really good example, actually. When you are 3,000% yourself in your business, there are some corporates I have worked with who are a bit like, no, you're a bit weird for us, and then I get to make a real life unicorn. I mean, which would you pick? So.
Exactly. It's like you just don't have to grow up in life. You get to live out all of your fantasies, however that is for you.
Yeah, it's amazing. I can highly recommend it.
Well, I would love you, because I'm sure the people listening are like, yeah, I want to be 3,000% myself. I want to know how to have colourful hair and be a unicorn and a mermaid. And there will probably be people out there that want to know where to get your book and everything like that. So where can people find you? So
mostly at carlawatkins.com and on Instagram as Catalyst Carla. And if you go to get your vodka glasses ready, your shot glasses ready, if you go to carlawatkins.com/multipod, there are links to everything that I do. That's probably the quickest and easiest way to not extend your podcast by 3 hours while I
will have all of the links obviously ready and available so that everyone can just find you. And have you got any exciting, other than your seriously, have you got anything exciting? You've got so much going on. Have you, other than the books that are coming out, have you got any events coming up or anything like that you want to talk about and share?
My very first exhibition, which is a joint exhibition in April in Manningtree, so that's the 13th to the 23rd, I think. And then probably after that will go somewhere else, but we have not figured out what to do with that yet, so I'll watch this space, watch the website space. But that's really exciting because I've not had a chance to exhibit my personal work before, so that feels like a really big step. But no, the books are my real focus at the moment. So I mean, I'm open for brand and boudoir photography sessions, mermaid sessions. Now the summer is coming. No one ever wants them in the winter, unsurprisingly. But mermaid sessions are back up from about May time. So yeah, I'm around for all of those things, but the books are my real focus. I am determined. They've been in progress for so long. I'm just determined to get them off my desk and into the world now. So
I'm really excited. Can't wait for them to come out. And if you had one piece of wisdom to women to just get them like excited about being themselves, can you think what would be, or is it just your tagline that they need to remember?
No, not necessarily. I think it's very, so that for me, I'm Colourful Magical Weirdo is definitely me. I would say maybe the thing that you think is a bit weird about yourself, whether that is a childhood hobby or whether that's something you do now, whether it's something that, a good clue is if you don't talk about it that much, you really love it, but you often hide it from like the sensible people in your life. That's probably the thing that will connect you with your people, I think. Because when I started talking about that stuff, that's when I started finding the right people.
There's a lovely little juicy nugget. Thank you. Well, I have absolutely loved chatting
I
to you.
loved being here too. I'm grinning away merrily.
And I feel like my ring was a bit
No idea what the picture's just going to be like. It's lots of smiling.
Yeah. It's been amazing, and I know that we could actually, and I probably am going to get you back on again because I would really love to get you talking more and more about, the business mentorship stuff, because I think there's a lot of, particularly the women, that I've trained in the womb world, that they could really do with, having someone kind of really kind of go, hey, let me just shake you into this authentic, weird, creative, magical selves. So yeah, I'd love to have you come back again.
I would love that. But yeah, thank you for having me. It's been fantastic.
Well, it's time for us to raise our vodka glasses. It's actually just water. Here's to the best multi-podder around, Carla Watkins.
Thank you.